Hey, y'all. You know, I make a fair bit of parodies, right? And I actually thought about making this one like a parody, but I decided that maybe just a little just straight talk would be a little bit better for a few folks to understand. And this is for Florida, but it's not just for Florida because some of the shenanigans that are going on in Florida as it relates to insurance, very often, so goes Florida, so goes the rest of the country, and how they handle these things. But let me just give you an example because this is kind of key. Okay, so my son makes right about $50,000 a year. Okay, lives in Tallahassee, has a little house. He got a note today from his insurance company that they were going to raise his rates. Let's see, from about $3,200 a year to $78,999. So if you run the numbers on that, you'd see that his $50,000 in Florida after he pays his federal taxes and whatnot is $41,009. So if you bring that across and you take his $7,899 insurance cost, that's over double, then that makes his income $34,036. That makes his monthly income drive all the way down to $2,836.33. Now his mortgage cost him $1,800 a month. So when he wasn't living high on the hog to begin with, but how's he going to afford that? He's not. The average income in Florida is $61,777. If you run that equation against most of these insurance costs, most of those people on that end of the spectrum will either have such a magnanimous deduction in their lifestyle, or they will have to sell and move. This will effectively deal with people that do not make good money, will not be able to leave here. My son's a history teacher. I would say that I would call him a public servant. He won't be able to live here either. So just now let's talk about his sister for just a second. She lives in Connecticut. Now, in Florida, with all this Florida freedom, right? We have zero state income tax. Well, she pays 5.22% in Connecticut. She makes about the same thing my son makes. She pays $1,163, which is $4 more than last year for her insurance, for a house about the same value as my son's, for her homeowner's coverage. So when you break it out, she makes just a little bit more money than he does, even with that drag of 5.22% above her federal taxes. Think about that for a minute. We're supposed to have this tax haven. It's supposed to be so much better to live here. But that insurance cost is a tax. Just to give you an idea for me, because I got mine today too. Mine went from $4,100 to $11,922. At this rate, my insurance will certainly cost over $20,000 within the next couple of years. I don't care who you are. If you're buying less quality insurance at a higher price, you need to ask one question and one question only. Why is that the case? If the carriers got everything they wanted, shouldn't you have had a reduction in your cost? If they basically quash the attorney, shouldn't you have had a reduction in your cost? When they gave you hurricane deductibles, shouldn't you have a reduction in your cost? When they killed the AOB, shouldn't they have reduction in your cost? When they limited the ability for lawyers to get their fees, shouldn't you have a reduction in cost? When they wouldn't pay your roof under anything but ACV, because even though you have a 40-year roof, they only cover it fully for 10 years. Wouldn't that reduce your cost? The answer is no, it won't. I called somebody last week and I said, hey, you guys haven't paid my umpire fee. It's been a little longer than normal. Wondering what the problem is. And I won't tell you who it is, but the guy I know really well at the carrier said this to me. You'll probably get paid sometime. But they're not paying anybody on time now because they don't have to, because we're basically unregulated. Think about that for a minute. What's going on in Florida is going to operate under the rules of unintended consequences. Because what's going to happen is those fixed income folks in Florida, which is most of Florida, are going to feel this pain especially bad. The working poor and the middle class are going to feel this especially bad. When you lose, when you start having a drag on the working poor and the middle class to this level because of this tax that's not listed as a tax, what's going to happen is it's going to make everything in Florida more expensive. Everything. From a hamburger to construction. It doesn't matter what. This is going to continue to hurt in a way that's absolutely crazy. And remember this, that both my son and I, because of the recent law changes, could see a 15% assessment on our policy, just because they had a little bit of loss run or just because they wanted to. This is getting crazy. And maybe somebody will look at this someday and remember I was right. Because this is going to do things to Florida that most haven't calculated yet. You know, in the art of war, it says that if you give something to your enemy and they still want to go to war with you, they're not honorable, and you're just going to have to go to war. The question is, do the people of Florida, do the policyholders in Florida, does the claim tribe in Florida, are you really actually willing to go to war? Are you a member of a cult that thinks that what's going on in Florida right now is okay?